This podcast is made possible by you, the supporters of WPLN and WNXP, Nashville Public Radio.
This is the Nashvillager Podcast. It's February 2nd, 2026. On this day in 1887, the town of Puxatawney, Pennsylvania held its first official Groundhog Day celebration, watching to see if a groundhog would see its shadow. It was an adaptation of a tradition involving hedgehogs that some German immigrants had brought with them to America. And that was, in turn, rooted in the old Christian holiday of Candlemas, marking the midpoint between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. It was a day when people had their candles blessed by priests and hoped that stockpiled winter supplies would last until things got warmer. And it naturally became a day for predicting when the weather would take a turn. Well, there in Pennsylvania, on the big day in 1887, people gathered to watch as the rodent a local newspaper had named Phil popped his head out a gobbler's knob. He did, indeed, see his shadow, which people took to mean there would be 6 more weeks of winter weather. Now, I can't find whether that year's prediction turned out to be true, but according to the National Center for Environmental Information, through the decades since, Phil and his descendants of the same name only have about a 30% success rate. I'm Nina Cardona, and this is your daily digest of what's happening around Middle Tennessee with historical context from Nashville Public Radio, WPLN News. Now, I'm usually pretty ambivalent about folk weather traditions. I appreciate that other people enjoy them, but I don't usually pay much attention. I mean, even the ones that seem to have some scientific basis, like the Appalachian custom of examining woolly worms to see what they have to say about winter, aren't necessarily accurate in the way that tradition says they are. Studies have found that the color bands on those worms do show the shape of a winter, but not the one to come. They're an outward sign of the previous winter's transition into spring, with the animal developing its markings as a reaction to the temperatures it experienced during its juvenile stage. This time, though, part of me is actively hoping that groundhog won't see his shadow tomorrow. We've had enough of cold. We've had enough of ice. We've had enough of being cooped up, of being without power, of people being desperate to figure out how to stay warm, how to make food, how to fix broken pipes, how to get water, how to be safe. It's all consuming, and it can kind of shrink down the scope of information your brain is able to take on. When your city is in the middle of a crisis, your city may as well be the whole world. When your household is frigid and dark, then even the rest of the city can feel like a theoretical construct you just aren't able to take on. But of course, the rest of the world has kept turning. News has been made that has nothing to do with ice or cold, and some of that news will at least eventually impact Middle Tennessee. Things that had nothing to do with the storm continue to happen under the radar right here in our community, too. There are so many ripple effects and loose ends from the ice storm that will continue to shape our days to come here. Still, we're definitely at the point where we all need to shake off some of that laser focus and take a broader look around. For example, the governor is delivering his State of the State address this evening. That's going to set the legislative session into full speed. So here's to finding that post-storm balance, keeping our eyes open to all that's happening without losing sight of the continued needs and challenges involved in our disaster recovery. WPLN News will be reporting on that full spectrum of stories happening here. And maybe, just maybe, soon we'll get to report that spring breezes are headed our way. In just a few minutes, what's next for Nashville's trees? That's coming up after the newscast.
Are you proud to listen to Nashville Public Radio? You should be, and here's one reason. The local journalism you depend on, it truly is as good as it gets in the world of public radio. WPLN and WNXP stories have recently won regional and national honors for our music journalism, education reporting, the deep interviewing on This Is Nashville, and our in-depth podcasts. When you tune in, you're hearing your neighbors, and they're some of the best journalists in the nation.
Here's the latest from WPLN News. Some metro services are resuming, with libraries reopening and trash pickup in some areas. The city's Department of Transportation says it has more than 40 crews working across Davidson County, along with help from the state and the National Guard. However, many city roads are refreezing, and officials warn that many traffic lights are still out. Most mid-state schools remain closed today, including Metro Nashville Public Schools, where some buildings still don't have power. The district used its remaining inclement weather days last week and says it's converting a professional development day, normally reserved for teachers in mid-February, to give workers extra time to restore heat and water to buildings. According to district spokesperson Sean Brasted, 6 schools were without power as of yesterday afternoon, down from 71 last week.
Our teams have been doing a good job of getting those buildings back online, so we don't anticipate any huge problems. Right now, we're just continuing to work with them to make sure power is restored, and once that is, we'll work to make sure that the buildings are warm and safe for students to return to school.
Brasted says part of the delay in schools reopening is having to reacclimate large buildings after going so long without heat. He said MNPS maintenance staff will work to repair any broken water pipes and get heat up and running in all 160 schools before kids return to class. The district hopes classes will resume tomorrow. Several members of Metro Council are heaping criticism onto the Nashville Electric Service for its response to outages in the wake of the storm. On Saturday, 11 council members signed a letter to the utility calling for a revision to its new zip code-based power restoration plan, which they say is misleading. They also urged NES to seek more line workers, even after the utility announced it had deployed more than 1,000 workers from 7 states to help speed things up. Yesterday, Councilmember Joyce Stiles, who is also a mayoral candidate, condemned what she calls a lack of preparation and transparency from the utility.
People must be held accountable for these mishaps and mistakes. We are losing lives. 21 deaths yesterday we have had so far. Families that are grieving that shouldn't have to be right now. And to those families, I say, we are sorry. We dropped the ball.
That death total is across the state of Tennessee, and since her comments, state officials have now confirmed 23 deaths related to Winter Storm Fern and another death related to a separate weather event in East Tennessee. 3 of the confirmed deaths are in Davidson County. The causes range from extreme cold to carbon monoxide poisoning, mainly from portable backup generators. Meanwhile, meetings were called for NES representatives to meet with Mayor Freddie O'Connell yesterday afternoon and then with council members last night. A relief program to provide emergency housing to people displaced by the winter storm has ended after less than a week. United Way of Greater Nashville announced its partnership with short-term home rental company Airbnb is at capacity and no longer available. According to a United Way spokesperson, that program reached capacity less than 48 hours after it was announced on Friday. 250 Nashville families have signed up to receive housing assistance from Airbnb. Well, with power out and Nashvillians flooding into hotels downtown, Broadway saw a different crowd last week. Locals. It's one quirk of an unprecedented ice storm and a reminder of the local livelihoods that depend on tourism. Conway Dickinson, a.k.a. the Cadillac Kid, is a bartender at Robert's Western World who's seen the influx.
We had a lot of local people in here whose power was out, and we're glad that we were open and the heat was on and we're serving warm bologna sandwiches. So it was absolutely had a lot of local people in here.
Musicians and the tourism industry have been busy since the storm. Some places have also been offering special discounts for displaced residents. Well, protesters braved the cold Friday to demonstrate outside Nashville's Homeland Security Office, demanding an end to the Trump administration's mass deportations. Ingrid McIntyre helped organize the protest. She says the crowd was one of the biggest she's seen, despite the weather.
It was 30 degrees colder in Minneapolis this time last week, so I give thanks for the heat wave. But yeah, I mean, people are experiencing horrible things right now in Nashville, right? There's folks who don't have heat. There's folks who, can't find food or, are not comfortable for sure. And some people who are at risk right now. And to have time where folks pause their day to say this matters, I think it's just more of what we're going to see.
Amid the ice storm, Tennessee Republicans filed several bills that aligned with the Trump administration's immigration agenda, like requiring local law enforcement to partner with ICE. Nashville has not signed on to an agreement with the federal immigration agency. Thousands more books may soon be banned in Rutherford County. WPLN's Camelia Burris spoke with community leaders who say these changes could cause a ripple effect of censorship in the state.
Rutherford County's library board is set to decide the fate of about 2,700 children's books. Many local library advocates oppose this, like Luann James, the director of the Rutherford County Library System.
I want to assure everyone that I am doing everything possible that I can within my scope of work to ensure that everyone has the right to read whatever they want, whenever they want.
She says the library board chairman told her to make a list of people who checked out books with LGBTQ themes, including their addresses and household information. And last fall, the Secretary of State told libraries to review books for age appropriateness and gender ideology. Local high school English teacher Tatiana Silvis says this caused panic.
When a state official with funding authority names specific titles and references financial consequences, local boards don't interpret that as a casual request. They see it as a mandate.
The meeting will take place at Murfreesboro City Hall at 5 p.m. Camelia Burris, WPLN News.
If you're out and about in Nashville, you might bump into a professional musician. But over at Ford Ice Center, you might just bump into an Olympic gold medalist. Scott Hamilton took home the top prize in the men's singles figure skating competition at the 1984 Winter Olympic Games in Sarajevo. He joined us in studio for a profile edition of This Is Nashville and explained how aspiring figure skaters can make the most of their training locally.
I think there's enough resource, enough ice, enough talent in this community that we could build a destination for skaters that want to become great champions.
Listen to the full show today at noon on 90.3 WPLN. Stream it live at WPLN.org or listen in the This Is Nashville podcast feed after the show airs. You'll find more news anytime at WPLN.org. Nashville's natural skyline changed last week. Thousands of trees across the city fell during the ice storm. Even more trees were damaged across virtually every community. WPLN's Caroline Eggers reports that this could be a turning point for our urban forest.
Frozen water blanketed every car, house, and tree across town. Before sunrise Sunday, we all heard it. Thunderous destruction and mini avalanches of ice. The morning sunlight revealed glittering trees severed and split, worsened by occasional gusts of wind. In the days since, it's become evident how widespread the harm is.
Oh, that one's on their house.
Grace Stranch surveys the damage on her street in East Nashville. It's Wednesday night, and only some houses are lit.
Our alleyway, there's a hackberry that's blocking the road, so you can't leave that way. And then half the area doesn't have power still, and to the left you see that huge trees falling down.
Her street may have been a bit luckier than others. The newest houses have small trees that survived the ice, while areas nearby had more extensive impacts.
Their houses have trees precariously on lines right now, and I know a lot of people have had trees hit their cars, and there's going to just be a lot of debris from this storm that we're going to have to be dealing with for a while.
I have a tree on the line connected to my house right now.
Oh no! You have the precarious situation, the danger zone.
Yeah.
Strange said one bright spot is that the storm has brought people together. Even if it's bittersweet that one shared activity has been chopping up trees. That work is happening all around town. WPLN's Tony Gonzalez observed one such effort. He spoke with Zach, who works with Tree Works in Chattanooga.
Mostly big hackberries that we've been seeing, so maple trees, but a lot of smaller trees have just been getting crushed.
How high or how far can your lift go?
Okay, yeah, this is a fun thing. This goes 115 feet in the air straight up and about 100 foot off of the side.
It looks pretty freaky up there.
It is. It's like, I always tell people I don't get to go to Six Flags that often, so this is the next best thing. Riding the crane is awesome. It's awesome. And then you have a chainsaw in your hand. What could be cooler?
Some residents might be able to handle light debris removal on their own. But Chris Leonard of the Nashville Tree Conservation Corps says many tasks require professional help.
If you feel like it's dangerous, guess what? It's dangerous.
His nonprofit helps people navigate tree loss, like filing an insurance claim if a home or car is damaged, and when to call a certified arborist. He says a surprising amount of the damage we're all seeing are on trees resilient enough to bounce back. But some trees are dead, And the natural silhouette of foliage in the sky is different.
It's like your fingerprints have changed. It's like you look in the mirror and the color of your eyes has changed.
Leonard says the loss will shake the ecosystem of the urban forest, affecting water drainage, heat, and wildlife. But it could be a catalyst for change. People can demand better city laws to protect trees from development and maximize efforts to grow back lost greenery. So when extreme weather hits, the canopy will be stronger. The warming of Earth has led Nashville to have more heat, drought, flooding, and yes, the risk for Arctic blast is a feature of our current climate. This week's storm is already historic. Longtime local naturalist Jo Bricketto says she was living in Nashville in the same house during the 1994 ice storm, and this one was far more chilling.
I just kept hearing pop, pop, and then crashes and then hisses, and it was utterly terrifying.
But she's also optimistic about recovery and the chance for Nashville to evolve. Here's one little way. For people who have to cut down trees, instead of leaving short stumps, they can leave a larger part of the trunk, called a snag.
They're nurse trees. They hold so many lives and livelihoods.
For people interested in donating or volunteering, Bricketto says that they can connect with nonprofits that plant trees. The city and its planting partner, the Cumberland River Compact, is a good place to ask how. And later in the recovery, people can replant. The Tennessee Environmental Council is holding an event on March 1st to supply native saplings across the state. Bricketto admits that one challenge may be convincing people that the numerous benefits of trees outweigh the negative consequences of storms.
I spend so much of my time trying to soothe the fears of people about anything to do with nature, about bees and birds and critters and trees. And this is going to be hard to get people to want to plant trees again. But we have to do it.
She says we can regreen the city and heal our shared forest. Caroline Eggers, WPLN News.
We do this roundup of Nashville news every weekday, so subscribe in your favorite podcasting app to make sure you never miss an episode. And if you like this, you'll probably enjoy the Nashvillager newsletter, too. You'll get perspective from more of my colleagues at Nashville Public Radio and links to the stories we're following. Sign up for those daily emails at WPLN.org/Nashvillager. And thanks so much for listening. Let's make this day a good one, and we'll catch back up tomorrow.